The next record to make the list comes from France, making it the first entry to be set outside of Japan. In fact, it was set by the max speed world champion for the time, Iowa. Iowa started uploading his time attack runs only a couple years after GX released in 2005. Iowa would improve at an astonishing rate, quickly overtaking many of Mumu and JKL's max speed world records. Within the first couple of years of playing, Iowa managed to reach the #1 spot in the max speed rankings. On top of setting numerous max speed records, Iowa innovated in several different ways. Unlike many top players at the time, Iowa had no issue with using Quickstar G4 and side attacking to set top max speed records. Quickstar excels at the most advanced techniques in the game. In particular, Quickstar touts the strongest momentum turbo slide in the game. This combination of traits allows the machine to perform multiple MTS in quick succession. This tactic would eventually be called MTS chaining. MTS chaining would be especially useful on tracks that don't provide a lot of boost power to the player. On November 2006, Iowa would really show Quickstar's potential on Green Plant Spiral. Green Plant Spiral is the 5th track in the AX Cup, and it is the longest track in F-Zero GX. In 2004, a number of shortcuts would be discovered by American player Midiman. The skips were pretty precise, but can be done if the player can avoid the death plane and touch the correct checkpoints.
Green Plant Spiral is a track that has always been dominated by custom machines. Aside from one possible exception, every known max speed record on the track has been held by a custom machine using the Titan G4 booster part. Mumu would be the first to set the bar in 2003 with a time of 3:25 using the Pretty Cannon G4. This was before Momentum Throttle had even been discovered. In 2004, the record would be taken by 4 different players, all using different machines. Babo made the first major cut to a time of 3:20. Yazo would bring it down to a 3:18 using the Quick Cannon G4. On August 17th, Mumu would reclaim the record using the Gallant Star G4. This brought the max speed world record on Spiral to a time of 3:11, and that is how it remained for the rest of 2004. By the year 2005, the max speed Spiral record would be broken wide open. JK Loser had begun his tear through the game, claiming a majority of the world records on tracks with a lot of MTS chaining. With Spiral being such a long track, MTS chaining allowed for a huge amount of time saved, especially during the first lap. JKL utilized MTS chaining and the shortcuts to improve the Spiral record by an astonishing 13 seconds with a time of 2:58. JK Loser used Quickstar and his impeccable MTS chaining skills to save a ridiculous amount of time throughout the run. The record would eventually go down to a number of other players, all using the Quickstar G4 and similar strategies to JKL. On November 1st, 2006, Iowa would come out on top, revealing a legendary new record of 2:49. The skill of Iowa was simply unmatched at this time. Iowa's records would stand for the following 8 years and 6 months.
In the year 2015, GX would experience a renaissance period in terms of top-level competition. Many new players were discovering the game, and some were quick to get into GX world record contention. One of these players was an American speedrunner of the name Zachary Zwing Ewing. Zwing would push the meta for Quickstar G4 by implementing many optimizations to MTS chaining. This usually involved additional MTS throughout the chaining and better execution overall. On June 24, 2015, Zwing would claim the world record on Spiral with the time of 2 minutes 49.165 seconds, beating Iowa's time by a fraction of a second. The next entry is probably the most controversial of the bunch, as it raised some questions about the legitimacy of a certain custom machine. This machine is, of course, Quickstar G4. At the time, many players refused to acknowledge Quickstar as a valid way to set times at max speed settings. This is due to a small amount of speed that it gains when performing snaking-like turning motions. Quickstar was never banned from the primary max speed leaderboards, but it was sometimes looked down upon or discredited due to this perceived advantage. Surface Slide is a long, winding track with very few boost plates or pit zones, which lends itself to MTS-heavy machines like Quickstar G4. There is one incredibly sharp turn that is typically handled with an extended quick turn. This is likely what caused some of the concerns about Quickstar's alleged snaking advantage.
The world record for Surface Slide would be passed between a wide variety of players ever since the release of the game. The earliest record we know of is a Big Fang time set during the internet rankings of late 2003. Within those last few months, the record would be improved again by RYD using Stormy Cannon G4 and then Mumu using the same machine. Within the next few months, a record would be taken by a Japanese player named Ace using Black Bull. Mumu would reclaim the record shortly after using the Quickstar G4, bringing the record down to a 137. Shortly after setting this time, Mumu famously vowed to stop using light custom machines such as the Quickstar G4 due to the aforementioned advantage it had on some tracks. Mumu would choose Gallant Star as an alternative and improve his record to a 135. On July 6, 2004, the record would be slashed to a 132 by JK Loser, once again displaying his modernistic MTS chaining skills with Quickstar. JKL continued to chip away at the record, along with an instance of AKC-12 holding the record at one point. JKL eventually settled on a time of 126, setting the bar incredibly high for anyone looking to challenge it. The record would stay with JK Loser until the late months of 2006, when Iowa started dominating the rankings. On October 26, Iowa would improve the record by about half a second with a time of 125 and 900 milliseconds. Iowa would get an even faster time of 125 and about 270 milliseconds later that same day. Over the next few days, Iowa continued to play the track. This led to a huge improvement, bringing the record to a 124.
As mentioned before, 2015 would bring in a plethora of new talent into the world of F-Zero GX. Among those players is one of the best to ever play the game, Super Sanic. Super Sanic was fairly new at the time, but he quickly demonstrated a high level of understanding and execution in F-Zero GX. In May 2015, Super Sanic would claim his first max speed world record on Aerodive, but it was soon reclaimed by CGN only 2 days later. This motivated Sanic's desire to claim a new record even more. This led him to playing Sand Ocean Surface Slide in July of that year. Sanic would opt for the original machine Black Bull, which has an incredible MTSing ability. This makes Black Bull a great alternative to Quickstar on tracks with a lot of MTS chaining. At the time, Black Bull only held a world record on slimline slits and a fast lap record on Twist Road, but players such as Naglaria and Matthew were beginning to show its true potential. Black Bull is much heavier than Quickstar, giving it a number of unique advantages. This includes better speed retention from MTS chaining and much more speed from shift boosting. The attributes of Black Bull would prove to be especially useful on Sand Ocean Surface Slide. On July 14, 2015, Super Sanic would use Black Bull to claim the Surface Slide record with a time of 1 minute 23.586 seconds. This saves almost a half second from Iowa's record set in 2006.